Now we'll be learning Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. We're continuing Torah Chaf Aleph. Until now, we learned that there is a shefa eliki of seichel which comes down to a person without any hagdamas. When a person is mekadosh himself, is mekadosh his mouth only to speak emes, mekadosh his nose with yer shemayim, mekadosh his ears with amunas chachamim, and mekadosh your eyes not to see any ra, then those things open up your mind to be mekabel a shefa eliki, which means that every person has a sichlium, which he understands, that's called pnimi, and sichlium, which he doesn't yet understand, which is called makif. And when you open up these kilu openings into your head, that all of these openings are connected to the mayach, and the chachma, and the rosh, that means you open up your eyes and you open up your ears, and you open up your mouth and your nose to allow into your mayach new hasagas that until now were you knew about them, but you didn't understand them, and you allow them to come into you and they become a pnimi, and you zeichet a hayam edrega of a makif, which again you're mekadosh yourself, or you're machneset pnimi, and so on and so forth. And we said that there are certain hasagas which we're not yet zeichet to, and b'chalal al hazal will never be zeichet to, and that's where our whole bechir comes from. So this inyan of makif, we said that this is an inyan of sukkah, because there's seven nikvam, which are the Sheva Neres, which is Shiva Knei Menorah, which is the Sheva Nanei Kavod, which is 7 days of Sukkah. Now the Rebbe is Moisef and Daf Lamed, that these are also the 7 days of the Chuppah, because the Chuppah is also a makif. The kala surrounds the chassan. There's a chuppah which is surrounding. A chuppah is like a sukkah. So that's why after chuppah you have the sheva brachas, the 7 yemei mishta sheva brachas, and that to zeich the seichel, and that's also the inyan by a avel. Why is the 7 days of shiva? It's also connected to that because the velus is on the person who is nifter, that we lost that seichel makif, that seichel pnimi, that seichel of that person who was nifter. And the Rebbe goes weiter, and it's the inyan of the rag shel chalitza, that when a person was as nifter without children, that his brother has to be miyabim him. If he's not, that's chalitza, and the yavama has to spit on him, and because that's the inyan of to be mekayim that neshama and the seichel, that seichel of that person to leave that seichel in this world, and he doesn't want to do that. So that's why inyan is something that he says is a musika. You could see the mess in the reik of the yavama. So that's what's said by Miriam, when Miriam spoke lashon hara about Moshe. She was nitztara. She got saras. The inyan saras is also the inyan of the aura, the shefa leki, which is stopped up, because since she was pregnant with Moshe, she was pregnant in Moshe, so she lost the shefa leki. That's the inyan of saras, and that's the pasuk says v'avia yarker pavnei lo sikalim shivas yamim. Shivas Yamim is also in the Sheva Neres, and that's the Aaron HaKoyin davened for Miriam. He said, that she's going to be like a mess. That Miriam will be like a mess. A mess is like a mitzvah. A mitzvah is a daimila mess. That the inyan of seichel, that the seichel which is lost, and what's pshat? Because the Rebbe says there's a musig that it's brought down that the child born from Yibum is a gilgul of the neshama of the Baal, who is the brother who is nifter without children. It's brought down in the Gilgulim in Zohar. So, and when that boy is born, then he's born to his wife, so it becomes the lashon Zohar is ima itze. His mother is now his wife. His wife becomes his mother, So he has a very hard time to be zeicha to find a new zivug, unless he with a lot rachamim gedolim. It's brought down Isaiah as Azazach. So Memela, so if Miriam is like a mess, she's like the neshama of a yavam that has no one to be mamshich as a neshama. V'yechil chatzi b'sarid. It's only chatzi neshama because he doesn't have a zivug. Now the Rebbe is mamshich that all this is to be mamshich the makifin, but sometimes the makifin aren't even there. They're behelim, and they're kilu beibur. Ibur is in Sichlium, another Yisod in Sichlium besides Pnimi Makif, is the Indian that you have to be Moilid Meichin. Then the Meichin go through different madrigas, with the madrig of Ibur, madrig of Leda, a madrig of Yenika. So the same way it's on Muberes, when she's Moiledes, then she screams out Kailis and Tza'akais. So too, when we want to be Moiled, Meichin, then when Meichin are Be'ibur, when they're on a level of Ibur, and we want to be Moiled them, then the way to do that is through Tza'aka. The Rebbe says that it's good Tza'aka, whether it's screaming by davening or whether it's screaming and learning, and that's Moiled the Meichin. And then, through being Mekadosh, the Shiva Seneris, you can machnas them. And that's pshat. It's tzakasenu yedea talumos. And through tza'aka ben b'Torah ben b'tila, we were zeicha to yedea talumos. And when a person learns Torah and he doesn't understand any chidushim in his Torah, so that's a Torah that says that there's no time in teaching it. It's because the reason why is because his meichin, which was his understanding in Torah, hasn't yet been niskala. It's still in the inyan of ibur, and then the only thing he could do is to be meiled those meichin, and that's inyan of a koil kol Yaakov. You have to be tzek these kolim, and that's how you zeicha to be meiled these meichin.